So
that guy's getting canceled.
my story today is we got some economic numbers that came out. According to new data from a report released by the Marijuana Policy Project, $4 billion in recreational cannabis tax revenue was hauled in by the IRS in 2023 alone, the most ever generated in a single year, bringing an all-time revenue total since legal markets have opened over a decade ago to $20 billion with a B.
Oh, yeah.
I remember the days when numbers like that were just abstract projections that everyone took with a grain of salt. And here we are, way ahead of projected numbers back in the day. And Marijuana Moments, Kyle Yeager points out that that is despite the fact that revenue in several major states, such as Colorado and Nevada, declined last year. But new and evolving state markets more than made up the difference, and that the trend is expected to continue as additional legalization laws are implemented soon in places such as Delaware and Ohio. Karen O'Keefe, Director of State Policies at MPP, said that in a press release, state legal cannabis sales continue to provide significant economic benefits, with over $20 billion generated in adult use cannabis tax revenue since the first sales began. The legal cannabis industry is providing much needed funding for crucial services and programs in states across the country. And additionally, the implementation of adult use cannabis markets has spurred significant job growth, creating hundreds of thousands of new employment opportunities, along with thousands of small businesses. Yeager said that the report focuses on adult use marijuana taxes and does not account for revenue generated from sale of medical cannabis, which is now legal in 38 states. Also absent from the report was sales from the trap. A quick trip to high9news.com will give you the full rundown, the full list of state-by-state totals, but a few notable ones that I picked out. California, obviously in the big lead with $1.08 billion total. Colorado, not really that good. They only had 256 million. They were eclipsed by Illinois with 552 million, and Michigan 473 million, and New York a paltry 21 million, even though analysts were predicting early on that they'd be eclipsing over 100 million in the first year. So what does this mean to us? Yeah, it's cool if you're an investor or just a data geek like myself that loves digging into these numbers and trying to figure out the underlying trends and angles that drive the numbers. But this is the kind of reporting news that moves legislation one way or the other. The fact that the legal cannabis industry has brought in $20 billion in tax revenue over the last 10 years, despite remaining federally illegal, is no small feat at all. Back in 1992, former Democratic strategist and Clinton campaign chair and current political commentator James Carville famously said, "It's all about the economy, stupid." When asked about the campaign's focus should be, where his campaign's focus should be going forward, and the phrase has remained relevant in evaluating where the majority of American voters' interests really lie. With the optics surrounding today's economy, despite the numbers showing us different and everything's on the up and up, polls have shown that one of President Joe Biden's biggest weaknesses is on the economy. I think that if Biden wants to make good on any of the promises made prior to 2022 election regarding cannabis, an easy way to move more of the conservative minds on the issue would be pointing to data sets like these instead of giving all that lip service to and pretending to care about the failed war on drugs prisoners of war. But those are just my thoughts. I'd love to hear the rest of the team's take on this one. I'm Rico Lamite, the dopest dad on the street for High 9 News. $20 billion federal tax revenue officially in the bank. Does it even matter?
You know what it is, Rico? This is straight theft. The government has basically fleeced $20 billion from the people that burn cannabis. That's what this is. This is a fleecing article.
Finesse.
Excuse me. I think that
go ahead.
I'd like to know how much revenue they spend in enforcing against cannabis operations, because that doesn't see the light of day.
That's a good point.
You're going to make all this money. Here's the tax money. How much do they spend in enforcing this? Because you could take that out of the revenue picture and add it into other programs, but the cops don't want to talk about that because it still costs money to enforce. And I think the industry is happy to pay for what it costs to go out and license and check and enforce, and even lower those law enforcement costs that no one wants to talk about right now.
I was going to
That's why
say
DEA is dragging their feet.
I was going to say that if they made 20 billion, because I always think that it's probably a lot more, and they're hiding it from you. And in this case, I would say that it's that. But also, what Dale touched on, what about the money that was also raised in and around it? You know what I mean? Like the sectors in and around it, like in law enforcement, like people who sell merchandise, papers, bongs, you know what I mean? Like everything else. I think that might just be the sales of marijuana sales, but what about the actual merchandise and everything else? I think that it is a lot more than that. And I don't think that they got the total up of everything tax-wise that they actually got. And maybe, I'm sure that they would know, because they're really trying to figure out how they can really fleece this, because they realize they just fleeced over $20 billion and no one had their heads up.
Yeah, construction materials. There's all different kinds of ways that you can follow the money on this one, but these are easy numbers to point to. Like, even if you don't care about people, even if you don't care about the medicine side of it, this is making a lot of money, and this money is going to the IRS, biggest thieves in the history of this country.
It's going to the centralized bank.
Oh boy,
it ain't going to us. That's for
it's
damn
definitely
sure.
not going to us, and we just got fleeced for $20 billion as the cannabis community overall, as far as I'm concerned, by our government, because we are getting taxation without representation, just for the simple fact that it's a Schedule I drug and has not been descheduled. And I'm not buying any of this bullshit about this rescheduling hype hindrance that is happening across all of the country.
Facts. What do you think, Elise?
I think it could have been even more money.
You think it could have been more?
Yeah, imagine if we actually had full, decriminalization, and
if we
were taxing it all over the country, they'd have even more money.
Now I'm confused into this article, Rico. Is this just revenues that state governments have brought in from the sale of cannabis, or does this include the 280E money that the IRS collects?
It just said revenue generated by legal cannabis.
Okay,
sales.
revenue generated by. So this means that that's a collection of what the municipalities have collected across the country, not what the IRS has taken from all of these businesses under 280E.
I want to know that number.
Yeah, exactly. Me too.
That's why I understood it.
Yep. This is just a drop in the bucket, bro. This is just the peanut gallery money right here.
You would think too, with that much money, that this would be a thriving industry. It's fucking.
Well, no, it's because they're taking all the money out of the industry. That's why it's not thriving. Is because they're just sucking all the lifeblood out of it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a reason why they don't want to move fast on this shit. They have no way of replacing that money.
Fair enough. And on that, we're gonna roll right into a commercial, and we're gonna be right back.